end, and this is where I end it all with the value of grit, I'd like to think that the secret to success is out there. And that's what we call as the value of grit. Not the grit that you find on cheeseburgers, but grit as a psychological, non-intellectual trait that if you want something so bad, you're going to get committing to it, not for weeks, not for months, but years, and working hard to get that objective a reality, no matter how many times you fall down. So before I preempt myself on the value of grit, let's backtrack and ask you guys, apart from grit, what do you think makes people successful in life? Let's start with school. How are we measured in school? Right? In terms of grades, right? IQ. My mom used to tell me if you get the highest grades in school, you're going to be the richest man on earth. Not true, obviously. But having a level of intelligence is good. So there's IQ. In leadership and influence, what else do we have? There's EQ, right? If you're emotionally intelligent enough to understand what you're feeling and be able to control it. I'd like to believe in the corporate world, as you go up in the ladders, it's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's rather hiring people smarter than you and managing and trafficking different egos and personalities. Because remember, the smarter the person is, the more prima donna sometimes his behavior is as well. So there's IQ, there could also be EQ. What else? NQ. Okay, we can talk about all the Qs in this session. What else? All right. What else? Tenacity. That's right. Come on, give me credit for this, guys. Why do you think I won the Apprentice Asia? Perseverance. What else? Good looks. Thank you so much. All right. I'm going to give some anecdotes again about this. In corporate America, they try to identify what makes people successful in terms of being appointed as CEOs. They had lots of hypotheses about this. Harvard Business Review even made research. And their first theory was IQ. Maybe the more intelligent you are, you get appointed to become a leader of a company. But what we realize is that some CEOs have really bad IQ and some have good ones. Barack Obama, which we may think as one of the most effective leaders of his generation, actually has one of the lowest IQs, second to George Bush. But he does well because he has charisma and he knows how to communicate. And so they realized that one thing common among American CEOs is rather height. And the average height of an American CEO is 6'2". That's because scientifically speaking, we always allude that someone who's taller than us has more dominance, is more commanding, and to a certain extent, even more good-looking. All right? In the Philippines, when we ask girls, and if the girl's boyfriend is not good-looking, she has two answers. Is your boyfriend good-looking? And the typical Filipino girl would say, he's nice, or he's tall. All right? So maybe good looks can propel you towards success. Another example, in 1988, my alma mater, the University of the Philippines, had a thesis by a student who won an international award predicting which students will be accepted in multinational companies based on their resumes. Group A had students who had really good-looking photos in their resumes. Group B had students whose photos are, how do I say this, are aesthetically challenged in life. All right? Who do you think of these two groups had a higher chance of getting hired? Who says it's A? All right. Who says it's B? It's okay, doesn't mean you're not good looking. All right, so the answer is B. I'm kidding, it's A. All right, so it's really A. So perhaps good looks can propel you towards success. But here's the magic, guys, and here's where I end. Dr. Angela Duckworth, which if you're a TED Talk fan, you may have heard this theory. In 2013, she created a landmark study predicting what makes people successful in life. And in that study, she tried to allude it to different contexts. Her theories was it IQ? Was it EQ? Beauty or good looks? Physical fitness? Or probably even wealthy parents who can send you to expensive schools. She tried to experiment this in a lot of contexts. She went to the National Spelling Bee predicting which students will advance to the semifinal round. She went to New York public schools predicting which teachers will continue their jobs despite the really bad pay. She went to the West Point Military Academy predicting which cadets will stay longer despite the really life-threatening training. In all of those concepts, in all those variables, either they were not related or they were even inversely related to success. But one thing stood out, and that was the value of grit. And grit, according to Dr. Angela Duckworth, is passion and perseverance combined for a long-term goal. Grit is like living that it's a marathon, not as a sprint. And that if no matter how many times you fall down, you're gonna get up and say, I'm gonna get this done because I deserve to get this prize. I'm sharing the concept of grit, guys, because if you look at all the contestants, it was a Cinderella of story of grit for myself. Remember, I was the youngest contestant who had the least to offer on the table. Majority of my competitors knew Mr. Tony Fernandez and were already CEOs or business owners of their own rights. I was the just guy from humble beginnings in Manila wanting to prove that I can make it big as well. And I think I won not because I was the smartest, and not just because I was the most prepared, but I think because I was the guy who wanted the prize the most. I was the grittiest. I was that guy who wanted to prove that you can never be too small to dream big, that the Filipino talent is good, and that number 3, I realized this. This was November 15, 2012. And I was watching the TV commercial saying that Apprentice Asia is now open for applications while I was stalking my ex on Facebook. And I told myself, I'm gonna join this TV show because I want that person who broke my heart to finally see me on TV to the tune of Adele singing, "We Could Have Had It All." Right? As I end, here's the problem. John, you tell me about grit, but where can I find it? And unfortunately, you cannot buy grit in the nearest 7-Eleven or convenience store. Neither can you pick it up on the floor. It is rather your duty and responsibility to inspire yourself every day and find out where that grit is coming from. In Asia, we have a Nescafe commercial that says, "For whom or for what do you wake up for every day?" And if you can't answer this question, then you don't have the right to complain about the world because you don't have the right amount of grit. I have this one last theory. I keep on saying last. I'm sorry for that. And there's a theory of growth mindset. Just to give you a tip and to arm you, if I can't find grit, how do I develop grit? And there's this really beautiful theory by Dr. Carol Dweck, which she developed in Stanford University. And it is the concept of growth mindset. Having a growth mindset means that the ability to learn is not fixed. That as long as you keep on putting effort into something, you're better off than someone who did not do anything at all. So for example, in school, if you don't like math and math doesn't love you back, as long as you keep on practicing those math drills, you're statistically going to be better off than someone who did not do anything at all. A person who has a growth mindset believes that even if she has a bad boss, that's good because she's learning to prepare herself for an even worse boss in the future. A person with a fixed mindset rather believes that failure is a permanent condition. That if you're not good at something, you're just as that. There's this beautiful saying that says, the same boiling water that hardens the egg softens the potato. And so I want to ask you guys, in 2016, when you look and visualize at your goals, in times of challenges, are you that egg that becomes tougher and hardens, or are you that potato that gives up and easily softens? I hope you're the former. Dr. Carol Dweck exposed kids, just to prove to you scientifically that this theory has been proven. She went to experiment on 2 sets of kids. Set A saw these photos, set B didn't. And in set A, the kids were told that this is how, do you know what this is? This is not Manila at 7 p.m. with traffic. All right? This is the brain. And this is how the brain grows as long as you keep on putting space and memory into it. And so Dr. Carol Dweck says, as long as you keep on learning, your brains create convolutions of networks with each other. When Albert Einstein died, what they saw after dissecting his brain was a very convoluted brain. And so she says, as long as you keep on learning, even if it's in terms of mistakes, embarrassments, and failures, continue doing that. Because that means you're getting closer towards success. 10 years later, they looked at these kids, and the kids who saw the photos were likely to persevere in times of challenges because they did not believe that failure is a permanent condition. They believe that the earlier they fail and the faster they fail, the more likely they will avoid committing those mistakes in the more critical parts of their lives when they're already adults, when they're business owners, or when they need to make those $1 million assumptions in their businesses. And so I'm going to end with this quote. I'm really going to end now. And now that you've been inspired, and now that you find out the value of grit, I don't want you guys to get intimidated if other people are already ahead of the race. There's this beautiful theory in HR, which is what we call as the threshold theory, which means that no matter how smart you are or your competitor is, as long as you keep on meeting that minimum threshold, everyone is equal, and what sets them apart is execution consistently. And so Zig Ziglar, one of my favorite motivational speakers of all time, says it. Don't get intimidated if people are ahead of you, because you don't have to be great to start. But it all starts in day one. You also have to start in order to be great. Thank you po. Maraming salamat for listening. Again, these are my social media accounts. Please do add me. And I'd just like to promote, okay, my book is called From Grit to Great. It's available in all bookstores in Southeast Asia. And if you're also interested, we have books on sale outside. I'm not asking you to buy it because it's going to make me rich, but because the proceeds of the book go to scholarships. I, as a scholar myself, have been to a lot, and so I feel how it feels to want something but you can't afford it. And they go to 4 NGOs through scholarships. In the Philippines, we're funding the UP School of Economics Alumni Foundation. Thank you.
Fantastic.